What's up, guys? We have good news. I got a load to cycle. Actually, I got a lot of loads to cycle. So, there were 11 tests. 8 of them cycled reliably. 3 of them had issues. So, IMR-4227 plus the filler, it did not fix the problem, so not really unexpected. 17.5 grains of H335, so the lightest load, but the one with Dacron. So the one with filler didn't cycle very much or very well. And that's weird because the lightest load without Dacron actually went 10 for 10 cycling. So I don't know, that's weird. I think it was kind of the opposite effect as I was expecting from the Dacron. Then also the 18.0 grains of H335 with Dacron, but that one only missed one. It was like 9 out of 10 cycled. So this is awesome. So I have a cycling load. That's great. In fact, I have a bunch of cycling loads. Since there are 11 targets, and my battery was on the small camera you take to the range with me to shoot that, the battery was dying, so I actually didn't get footage of every single test group, just most of them. But a lot of the results were basically the same, so we don't need to look at all of them. So let's take a look at a few of them though, kind of the landmark ones. First off, we've got 17.5 grains of H335 without Dacron, no filler. This is the first one I tried after the IMR-4227 group that I wasn't expecting to work. I got that out of the way first. But this is the first H335 one that I tried on the lightest load. And you cannot tell looking at the video here, but I was giggling like a little girl inside when I fired off 10 rounds in a row, semi-automatic. It was awesome. I didn't have to lose my sight picture to charge the handle again, and it was ejecting brass correctly, and yeah, it was awesome. I was really pumped. So a few things to look at. Here's the target. As you can see, accuracy is not stellar. This is at 50 yards, so that's part of, like, obviously the groups will open up at 50 yards versus 25. But and then I'm just using my peep sight for all of these. I don't have an optic at all. I just have iron sights. So here's what's probably contributing, I think, to the lack of accuracy. Number one, I don't have any idea what the velocity is on this load, or any of the loads with H335 with these bullets, because I can't find load data. So that kind of sucks, but I'm guessing that this load is falling a little bit shy of 2000 FPS. So I'm really pumped that a load that is too slow is cycling my action, because that means I've found the middle of the tricky part of the Venn diagram that I mentioned in that first video. So a lot of the people I was reading about using this powder were saying they had to get up to 18.5, 19 grains just to cycle on their carbine length gas systems, and I did not. So I don't know why. I mentioned before I think my rifle's a little bit overgassed. Maybe that has something to do with it, but I'll take it. I'm happy with that. Number two, reason why I don't have great accuracy yet. I have not made any effort into, or I have not put any effort into making really high quality reloads. Like, my bullets are ugly. Like, I did not cull them very hard. I've got ones that I'm shooting anyways, even though they're kind of wrinkly and stuff like that. I'm doing the lazy approach to powder coating where I just like chuck them all in a metal mesh basket instead of like setting them on the base and doing a good job with that. So the powder coat's kind of like uneven and stuff like that in a few places. And then I haven't weight sorted any projectiles. I haven't weight sorted any brass. I haven't done a good job installing the gas checks thus far, so as you saw from the last video, some of my bases are pretty messy. Like, they're not good bullet bases, they're very flat. I haven't sorted any of my brass by head stamp or by weight or anything, so I've got like a ton of different types of brass. I haven't even measured any of my casings or trimmed them at all, so probably some of them are a little long. I have no idea which ones are once fired or 33 times fired or anything like that, so I really just wanted to get one that was cycling the action, and now that I'm there, there's a ton of things I can do, I think, in my process of reloading that will increase my accuracy by a lot, so I'm going to be doing some of those. Also, number three, I'm just not a good shot with a rifle. Like, I can accept that and admit that for what it is. I don't have a lot of experience shooting rifles, and I've got a lot of work to do with getting my accuracy up. And then I don't have an optic, which I mentioned I'm using a peep sight. So maybe there are people who can shoot sub-MOA groups with a peep sight at 50 yards. I'm not one of those people. But I think, I don't know, it'd be nice if I could find somebody. I've got a couple of friends with ARs that I might be able to just borrow an optic. And hopefully that we'll see my groups kind of shrink back down a little bit if I can be really confident in my, my consistency and shot placement in between. So I think what I might do if I can't find an optic to use is just bring my next set of tests back, or the rest of my tests while I'm kind of dialing in accuracy. I might bring them back to like 25 yards, just because it's a lot easier for me to make sure like my point of aim and where I'm holding on the target is really consistent in between shots if I am closer to the target. Like my sight just doesn't cover up as much of the target, so it's easier to be consistent at 25 yards. So yeah, we'll see. I might just shoot a little shorter for the rest of the test. But hey, I'm gonna call this test a success. So I definitely have some work to do to find the accuracy, but I have cycling loads, and that H335 powder seems to be the magic ticket for me. So here's another target. This is 18.5 grains with no Dacron. I didn't get a video of me actually firing these ones. It's just one of the groups that I didn't tape. But these ones did cycle 100%, so no issues with cycling. Here's the target. I think this target is the best one, accuracy-wise, out of all the ones that I shot, out of all 11 groups. So it's not really that great, as you can tell, but it's like that's where it seems like the groups are kind of coalescing a little bit. So I assume that means I'm probably pretty close to the 2000 FPS magic area. If you guys can hear that, that's my son. He's upset right now. I apologize. So, I think I'm going to build the next set of loads, next tests around this 18.5 grains. Okay, so let's take a look at this target. This is our max charge of 19.5 grains with Dacron. As you can see, the accuracy is abysmal. I think I got like 3 of them on paper, if I remember correctly. So I think it's safe to assume that this is well past the 2000 FPS mark. So from what I read, Dacron filler is supposed to be helping me cycle a little better maybe, and also help me shoot more accurately. For me, with this test, it actually did neither. It seems to have made my accuracy and my cycling worse. So it might just be because I'm doing it wrong. So I haven't done a lot of Dacron filler in my lifetime. I would love to hear from those of you who are old pros at Dacron. My best guess maybe is I'm just kind of eyeballing the amount I put in. So I'm shooting for enough to keep the powder in place so it doesn't rattle around, not so much that it feels really packed down there or dense, like it's still kind of fluffy in there. So, and I think I found that, like, that's not a very difficult window to get into, but I'm not being consistent about the weight. I'm not weighing my Dacron or measuring it or anything like that. So it's very likely that my Dacron amount is very inconsistent from casing to casing, and maybe that's my issue. But those of you who know more about Dacron than I do, I'd love to hear your insight on what might be causing my Dacron filled loads to shoot worse, not cycle as well, and shoot less accurately than my loose powder loads. Yeah, and then, you know, in the future, if I'm loading high precision ammo with like a heavier bullet or a jacketed bullet or something like that, I might play with Dacron if I can get it to help me. But right now, since it's not helping me, and since I'm not that concerned about like super awesome, crazy pinpoint long range accuracy with these plinking 55 grain cast bullets, I think I'm just gonna skip it for the purposes of this load. Yeah, for the future, I'd love to learn more about it, you know. All right, so math warning ahead. One thing I wanted to do, and what I have done in the past, is I can come up with pretty good estimates for pressure and velocity. I've kind of dialed it in on pressure. I'm not too worried about pressure anymore. We're in that window where it's cycling the action, so it's enough pressure. It's not blowing up my gun, so it's not too much pressure. I think we're there. So not going to worry about pressure too much because that's actually a lot trickier to estimate. But velocity, the way it works is I can take load data. So if I have load data like I did with IMR 4227 plus this exactly 225 55 grain flat point bullet, I can find the min and max loads in the load data, which I think was 11 and 14 grains of IMR 4227 if I'm remembering correctly. I can stick them on a graph, and then I can find the equation of the line that meets them. Once I have that equation, I can plug in any number of grains and it will spit out a velocity for me. And it seems to be pretty accurate. So for example, like the most accurate load of IMR 4227 was like 13 grains, 12.9 grains, something like that. If I plug in 13 grains into my equation here and plot that on the graph, it comes out to, I didn't write it down here. I can't remember. I think it's like 2000, and it says on the graph, that number. That's what it came out to. So and that's right where I expected accuracy to be. So this seems to be a good way to estimate. We're kind of assuming that the line between these min and max loads is straight, and I think that's a fair assumption when we have real good data like this. So I don't have real data for this bullet and powder combo of H335. The best I can do is find a similar weight and shape of bullet and use that data. So I found one, a 60 grain. I haven't weighed any of mine, but I assume they're a little fatter than 55 grains just because they're dropping a little large from the mold. So there's a little extra lead in there, plus I'm putting a gas check and some powder coat on top of that. So 60 grains seems like a good guess. So I found a 60 grain jacketed bullet in the load data for 335, and it has a min and max load that are way higher than anything I'm going to be using for cast. So we kind of have two problems with this. It's the best I can do right now, but number one, I'm not using real load data for the bullet I'm using. I'm using load data for like a surrogate kind of similar bullet. Number two, before I was guessing points in between the min and max loads, and now I'm guessing points that are well below the minimum load. So the chances that the real life data, the real life way that this curve goes is not a straight line. The likelihood of that goes way up once I'm outside of these two known points. I'm way to the left on the graph there. So it's the best I can do, and I hope it's getting me into the ballpark. And it checks out a little bit, I think. I plugged a few numbers into my equation on this one before I filmed this, and the 18.5 grain load of H335 would have landed at about 2018 FPS, which sounds just right. That was my most accurate load. That's right in the same neighborhood as the most accurate load of IMR-4227. So that seems to check out. 17.5 grain load landed at an estimated 1850 FPS. So as I guessed before, that's a little ways before the accuracy node. So great. That means I have some room to work with to step it up without worrying about losing my my reliability. And then the 19.5 grain load landed at 2169 FPS. So pretty clearly too fast for accuracy with this bullet. So this seems to check out, which that's great. The pressure math, you can do the same thing with pressure and velocity. It didn't really work with pressure. When I put in 17.5 grain loads, it said I was at like a negative number for copper units of pressure. So I guess that means that the line for pressure is not a straight line. That's fine. I think I'm satisfied on pressure, and I'm not too worried about that number anymore. It's really velocity that I'm chasing down now. So that's what I've got for math here. It's the best I can do without real load data. So I'm going to ask this. If any of you guys have shot this exact bullet with this exact powder and have chronographed it and have data points for me, I would love to see them. Or if any of you guys have a reloading manual or have official published data somewhere, I couldn't find it. I looked high and low. But if you've got it somewhere that has this Lee 225 55 grain flat point, or the Lyman bullet, I think it's the 225415 number mold that this Lee is a copy of. If you've got load data for H335 for either of those bullets, either from a chronograph or from published load data somewhere, I would love to see it because I can feel a lot more confident about my numbers when I'm not having to extrapolate quite so far away from the known data. And yeah, that would be great. So if you have that data, please share it with me. But yeah, just wanted to thank everyone. You guys have been really helpful. I've gotten some really good information and tips, helping me pick my next powder to try after IMR-4227 kind of failed. One guy suggested like some specific things I could try to get the gas check to seat better, and I tried them and they actually worked really good. So that's what I'm going to be doing from now on. You guys have pointed out a lot of things I could be doing that are kind of sabotaging my accuracy. So, you know, not culling my bullets well, not sorting my brass, not trimming my brass, all that stuff. I kind of already knew about it, but it's nice to have it in one place. So that's things I can fix as I chase down the most accurate load I can find here. And I think that's where I am, is my next test will just be chasing down that accuracy node. So thanks guys for all your help. I appreciate it. I couldn't have done it without you. And I think that's it. I think that's all I got. Yep, so keep the tips coming. I'd love to hear from you. If you have ideas on what I can do to make things better, please keep them coming. And one last plea, if you have data for velocity with this specific combination of powder and bullet, I'd love to see it. I'd love to get my hands on that. So that's all I got. Stay tuned. We'll get another test going sometime soonish, I hope. And that's it. Thanks for watching.